Flip-hand phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
With the end of the college football regular season being about a month ago and approaching the midway point of college football bowl season as of the recording of this video, I am going to be talking about college football teams that made the biggest turnaround from 2022 to 2023. Before I move on, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get into it. The first team I'm going to be talking about in today's video is Arizona. Arizona in 2022 went 5-7, which, yes, it's a losing record. However, it was at least a positive step in the direction as a program compared to the last few seasons since 2018. But that's not the point of the video. In 2023, Arizona football has exceeded every expectation, as they've been one of the bigger surprise teams of all season. Coming off a season in which they didn't make a bowl game, and you could probably argue that some people thought they were going to make one this year, but there were projections of them being maybe a 6-7 win team. But in fact, this year in 2023, Arizona is 9-3. They're currently a top 15 team in college football, have an exciting offense and a defense that ranks in the top 30 in the nation for scoring defense, and have a lot of young talent and a very bright future in the Jed Fish era. Not to mention, for this 2023 season, they actually started the year off 3-3, and they would end the regular season strong, going on a 6-game win streak, defeating teams like Oregon State, UCLA, Utah, and even their rival Arizona State. They will now play in the Alamo Bowl, where they will face Oklahoma and have a chance to go 10-3 if they win this game and have their first ever 10-win season since 2014. Flipping sides to the other team in the Alamo Bowl this year, I'm going to be talking about Oklahoma. Oklahoma in 2022 was one of the most disappointing teams in all of college football. They went 6-7, and they had a lot of struggles, especially after non-conference play, struggling mightily during Big 12 play, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And this was their first losing season since the year 1998, and it was clear that Oklahoma was going to be in a rebuild. And heading into this current year of 2023, they were still ranked preseason-wise, but it wasn't necessarily the highest. They were ranked number 20, and most people really had them more so as maybe an 8-9 win team. Think 10 wins would be attainable, but on the more so, it was mainly 9 wins as a projection. However, Oklahoma, they had a good year this year. They went 10-2, and despite a couple losses that the fan base definitely didn't want, especially after beating Texas, it was a year of improvement. They improved a lot on offense, they improved a lot on defense, and overall were a much more efficient team, especially when games came down to the wire. Not to mention, they got a big win versus current college football playoff team Texas in the Red River rivalry. Reaching that 10-win mark, especially after having a losing season, is very big time for Oklahoma, and they have an opportunity to potentially get to 11 wins if they can win their bowl game versus Arizona, which would add extra motivation and/or momentum towards the SEC. Staying in the state of Oklahoma for this next team, I'm going to be talking about Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State in 2022, they started off the year on fire, even reached all the way up to number 7 in the AP poll. However, near the midpoint and end of the season, Oklahoma State started to fall apart either by ways of injuries or bad play. They would finish the year off 7-6, including a losing streak in their last few games to Oklahoma, West Virginia, and Wisconsin in their bowl game in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. And going into 2023, their expectations, they weren't the highest. People thought this Oklahoma State team, it wasn't going to be one of the better Oklahoma State teams that they've seen recently. For example, like 2021, and just the amount of talent they were losing in starters on both sides of the ball, whether they went to the draft or went to the portal. The expectations weren't the highest for Oklahoma State going into 2023. However, Oklahoma State has exceeded every expectation laid upon them during this season. They have one of the best players in college football in Ollie Gordon, who won the Doak Walker Award. They made improvements on the offensive line, and most of the offensive line will be coming back in 2024. And despite not really having the best quarterback play throughout the entirety of the season, they found their way to the Big 12 championship game and would face off against Texas, in which, yes, they would end up losing, but nonetheless, they made it to the Big 12 title game when many would have thought they would have been lucky to reach 7 wins, especially after falling early in the season to South Alabama and even falling to Iowa State before the bye week. Oklahoma State is currently 9-4 as the recording of this video, and even got some big wins during conference play versus teams like Kansas State, Kansas, and their in-state rivals in Oklahoma. There were a couple mind-boggling losses like South Alabama and UCF, but however, this was a big season turnaround, and they'll have an opportunity to reach 10 wins if they can find a way to beat Texas A&M in the Texas Bowl. The next team I'm going to be talking about is Mizzou. Mizzou in 2022 went 6-7 and ultimately didn't have a lot of success throughout the year. And this would mark their 4th straight season in which they would have a record of 500 or below. And it would be their end of their 3rd year with Eli Drinkwitz, who would have a below 500 record as a head coach at Missouri. Going into 2023, Eli Drinkwitz was on the hot seat. And many people didn't think Mizzou was going to reach a bowl game, and this would potentially be Eli Drinkwitz's last season as a head coach at Mizzou. However, that was far from the truth. Mizzou, they would end up going 10-2, and they're currently going to a New Year's Six Bowl and are currently ranked inside the top 10 of the college football playoff rankings. And they've also had some big wins for this season as well, as they beat Kansas State. They beat Kentucky. They did have a close game with Georgia, but ultimately did not end up winning. They crushed Tennessee, and they destroyed their rivals in the SEC in Arkansas. And now they have an opportunity in the Cotton Bowl versus Ohio State to reach an 11-win season. This would be their first 11-win season since the year of 2014. The last team I'm going to be talking about in today's video is Northwestern. I made a whole video, my latest video, talking about Northwestern and how they've had the biggest turnaround in all of college football from last season to this season. And I'm a firm believer in that. In 2022, Northwestern, they went 1-11. And they ended the year off on an 11-game losing streak. Their only win was in a whole different country in Ireland. And going into 2023, they were expected to be the worst team in the Big Ten by far. They even had their longtime storied coach in Pat Fitzgerald fired just about a month before the season due to hazing allegations and an investigation. So the expectations for Northwestern football in 2023 was to be maybe a 1-3 win team in the season and just be a year where David Braun was likely just to be an interim head coach and just that only, because you can't hire a new head coach right before the season starts. However, that was by far nothing how it ended up being. In 2023, Northwestern, they went 8-5. They were second in the Big Ten West. And not only that, they even won their bowl game to reach their 8th win after beating Utah in the Las Vegas Bowl 14-7. A team who had nearly no expectations for this year ended up winning 8 games and having their first season in which they won at least 8 games since 2018. A year where no one expected them to be anything good. They turned around a year where they went 1-11 to an 8-win season. Well, guys, if you made it this far in today's video, drop something down in the comment section below. What videos you want to see on this channel in the future? And before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. B. Kelly out.